everybody, how's it going? Meteorologist Will Haney here. I'm going to take off my rec specs. Just kidding, they are blue light glasses. Sometimes I get headaches if I stare at screens too long. But that is not important. What is important is we're going to do a little weather update, and I hope everyone is enjoying themselves on this fantastic end to the weekend after USA men's hockey won gold and several Michigan natives on the squad. It was a lot of fun watching that a little earlier. I hope you were able to catch that, and sorry if you hadn't somehow heard that news. But the first time in, I think what they said, since 1980, so 46 years, pretty remarkable, and beating Canada. So that's 2 golds, men and women's hockey, also women's, if you didn't hear, beating Canada a few days ago. So kind of cool. 1 second. I'm going to keep this somewhat brief tonight because I'm on a little later than I intended. So apologies for that, but we'll get this started without further ado. Right now, things are quieting down for most of us as far as the snow is concerned. Roads are still a little bit slippery. There's a little bit of a little layer of ice underneath some of the light snow that came down. I was definitely noticing that on our parking lot. It's a little slippery, but not too bad out there. Most of the main roads are doing okay. You just still want to give yourself a little extra stopping distance and things like that. So that's the view in Allegan. I think the Old Iron Bridge, by the way, is pink because of Valentine's Day. I think they're just kind of keeping with that theme for now. We shall see. We'll see if it goes green here soon for St. Patrick's Day. All right, so live Doppler radar. There's a disturbance that slid its way through our region the last 24 hours, led to that uptick in some snow last night, and now this is more transitioning to lake effect, just straight up lake effect snow. But being this late in the season, you're not going to see the super intense, super impressive lake effect that you would, say, a couple months ago. Your attention might also shift as well to the mid-Atlantic right now, where there is a nor'easter system. Nor'easter just describes a pretty strong area of low pressure that continues to strengthen as it kind of pushes up the Atlantic coast. So they tend to kind of hug the coast and then really deepen the area of low pressure, let's say a little closer to like New Jersey, and then not always near New Jersey, but just in this case. So there's an area of low pressure kind of creeping its way up the coast, and that is what's going to lead to some really impressive snow overnight through early tomorrow in places like Jersey, New York, up into Massachusetts. There's blizzard warnings in effect, which you'll see now. Those areas of orange, all blizzard warnings. So hopefully you didn't have any travel planned to New England / the Northeast the next 24 hours, because I think a lot of those flights are going to be canceled. They have like travel bans in effect, I think, tomorrow morning in New York City. So yeah, not a good situation for the Northeast. Fortunately, we're not dealing with a blizzard, but we are dealing with still some lingering lake effect snow. And this is starting to organize a little bit more. There's two-ish healthier bands right now. The first one is working its way through South Haven as we speak. So see those darker blues and see how it's almost becoming more of a line. That's, again, that lake effect getting its act together a little bit more. And I described it as an analogy of children last night on the air, and it kind of was a fail. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if the analogy made any sense. However, lake effect bands are like children. They don't like to share, was my weird analogy. So when you have several bands of lake effect snow, or if it's just like a big, large area, that lake effect snow might not be quite as intense versus when you start getting just one band, because the lake effect snow doesn't have to share some of the ingredients. It doesn't have to share its toys with its brothers and sisters. That was the lame analogy I tried to work in there. I don't know if that makes sense. All right. But we do have some decent snow right now on top of South Haven. Depending on how quickly I can do this, I might be able to, I'm going to hop over to our other graphics computer and switch a source, and then I should be able to show y'all South Haven. Hold on really quickly, because it doesn't look too bad. The wind is definitely breezy out there, though, in South Haven as we speak. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, I was just looking at the live cam on South Beach, and it doesn't look like whiteout or anything. And I don't really expect any true whiteout conditions because, like I said, this late in the season, the lake effect just can't quite pack a punch as much as it does early in the season. You can kind of see it there. Definitely been a little bit more of that lake ice that's kind of moved on shore or towards the shore. I don't think that's obviously stable ice that's out there, but with that wind that shifted more northwesterly, there's like chunks of ice that can drift offshore and then come back. And I think that's what some of this is. That's maybe even some chunks of ice and broken pieces of ice that migrated offshore a few days ago when the thaw happened, and now it's kind of like coming back. Some of that could be new too, but anyways, just kind of interesting. Obviously, a fresh blanket of white in Holland and cold water. I think this is telling of what a lot of our streets are looking like right now. There could be a little bit of some ice, but nothing too major. And like I said, the snow is gradually winding down. But let's jump back into live Doppler really quickly, and then I'll tell you about 2 other chances for snow in the week ahead. But again, you can start to see that lake effect starting to take aim at kind of that I-196 corridor and then also down into Berrien and Cass counties. This is the primary area that's going to be seeing some additional snow. And it just switched radars. That's why that the blue just kind of popped up there. But yeah, certainly down towards Dowagiac, Niles area, there's a little bit more impressive lake effect snow right now ongoing. And this is where we most likely will still see another 1 to 3 inches or so into the overnight and early morning hours tomorrow. It does extend down towards South Bend as well, so they might even see a few additional inches. So this is where we have the winter weather advisory, Allegan, Van Buren, Berrien, and Cass counties. I'd say up to about another 1 to 3 on top of, in some cases. I did have one report, I believe near Allegan, of 4 inches today. If you have any snow reports, I would love to hear how much you got. I only had probably hard to say because there was some melting that happened during the day. I think I got about 1 inch at my house. And then as a total in Kalamazoo, at least at Channel 3, I measured 0.2 of an inch before midnight last night, and I measured about 3/4 of an inch earlier today. So I would put it right around 1 inch, if not just below that. Doris, you're in Missouri, a little cold here. I bet. I've heard it's even colder down there and across portions of kind of the plains and Midwest. It's very cold. So yeah, right now we're in the middle to upper 20s, which again is cold enough where we could see some slick spots on the roadways, things like that. As we look ahead to your Monday, this is kind of a visual of, I think, what our clouds are going to look like. I think generally mostly cloudy in the morning into the early afternoon, and then I think we'll see some better chances for some sun. It will be a cold day for Monday, though. I think generally middle to upper 20s. Keep in mind our average highs right now are in the they're now around 37 degrees. Yeah, 37 is our average high for tomorrow. Let me see something really quickly. I wanted to show y'all kind of the next 2 things that we'll be watching for. All in all, I don't really expect anything too major in the next couple of days. Tuesday's system continues to look less impressive. It is going to be a clipper system to our north. So I think northern Michigan, well north of Grand Rapids, is most favored to see some accumulation. I would say the snow is possible later in the day as well. So Tuesday should start quiet, clouds increase. It'll be a cold start. That's our coldest morning in the 7-day, is that 15 to start Tuesday. And then we warm up to about 33 degrees. Wednesday, we'll watch for a few spotty snow showers, but I don't expect much on Wednesday. The next thing that we're watching is a system on Thursday. This system, though, I will say, has a lot of model uncertainty with it. That has been the case the last couple days. I'm less convinced, I will say, that we'll see significant accumulation out of this given some of the trends. However, there are still some model runs, basically some weather data that we look at, still suggesting that we could get some decent snow out of the system. This one has a little bit more of a southerly track, so it would take an area of low pressure through kind of the Ohio River Valley. And that trajectory, we get kind of a little bit more favored, especially near and south of I-94, to see some better potential for accumulation. Now, that being said, what I mean when I say there's plenty of model spread, what I mean by that is it's kind of like if you're hedging a bet, right? The spread is, I think, I don't really bet. However, I think a spread means, there's a, how do I say this? There's, like a less chance that you're going to win if there's a higher spread, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, people that go to casinos. But basically what I mean by that is the models, obviously, there are some that show very little. There's some models that are still showing decent amount of snow. And the trajectory of that low is a little bit all over the place in some of our model data. And that is expected because that system is still just an area of spin essentially right now over the North Pacific Ocean. So basically when it's still out over the ocean, we can't sample it quite as well. And so the data that we're putting into those weather models, it's not that it's unreliable, it's just not as reliable as once that system kind of moves over land, if that makes sense. So long story short, Thursday's a day to watch right now. It's certainly not a guarantee that we're going to see an impactful snow, but there's certainly at least a chance of that. So we're watching Thursday. That I think is our best chance in the next 7 days of any, shovelable. That's my favorite thing to say. Shovelable snow. And then we'll warm up quickly for Friday and Saturday, I believe, back into the 40s. Might see another round of very light snow late Saturday into Sunday. But this pattern that we're getting into is pretty typical of kind of that late winter, early spring, where you get these like freeze thaws, you get these quick hitting little clipper systems or kind of weaker systems usually towards like the tail end of winter versus early in the winter. You sometimes get those like really behemoth winter storms. It's not to say we can't get a winter storm this late in the season. We certainly can. It's just that, winter is kind of like piddling out almost, hopefully. But we can certainly still get some winter storms well into March and sometimes even April. So anyways, I got to wrap this up. I appreciate all of you all hanging out with me. Jesse's asking if there's any warm-ups. I would say, Friday, Saturday is a little one, Jesse, but the extended outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center, even through, I would say, early to mid-March, all favor at least a slight leaning towards above average temperatures. But I think it's going to come with a lot of this, and similar to what you're seeing here, like a lot of up and down and just like freeze thaws, where it's not going to be necessarily what we just had, which was a prolonged stretch of well above average warmth. I don't really see that, but I do see, generally speaking, slightly to a little bit more above average temperatures kind of winning out as we look beyond the 7 day, if that makes sense. All right. Bye, everybody. I got to go up for a mic check. Thanks for hanging out with me for 15 minutes, and take care. We'll have you covered on the ARC in about 6 minutes. And then over on channel 3 at 11. So appreciate you hanging out with me. Feel free to follow us on YouTube if you don't already. Some of you might be watching on YouTube. We appreciate that. Nothing against Facebook, but we are, again, trying to grow that YouTube audience. So I would really appreciate it if you could do that. And that's a wrap. Take care. Happy Sunday and have a great work week.